Hey guys, so welcome. We're doing a Dharma talk this evening. We're going to give people a few moments to sign in. Feel free to invite people. A good way to do that is to host a watch party on your page. So if there's some people who you'd like to listen to the Dharma talk tonight. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment. I'm going to leave a comment there. So feel free to comment if you've got a question or something comes up for you, or if you can't hear me or something like that, or the image gets really bad. Otherwise, we're going to start in just a few moments. And on this new version of live stream for Facebook, they don't tell me who's there. So it'd be great if you just say hello so I know who's listening. It's kind of weird just sort of talking to the interwebs. There are other people on the other side, but you don't know who they are. So I have a few people who I've definitely invited today's talk, so hopefully they're there. All right. Again, we'll get started in just a moment. Hi, Deborah. It's good to see you. How you doing? Hope you're well. Hey, Sammy. How are you? It's good to see you. Oh, great. It's nice to be off from work. Great to see you, Maggie. And I'll like everyone's comments here. All right. So I think we'll get started here. I just realized that I put this on the Mahapatha page and not on my personal page, and I said it was going to be on my personal page. That's because at the last minute, Facebook threw me a curveball and said that my browser wasn't working, so I had to put up another browser. So these are the fun things that I have to deal with these days. I try and do a live stream, and at the last minute, Facebook, somebody changes something on me, and then the thing that I've been doing for the last 7 weeks doesn't work anymore. All of a sudden, I need to do something else. So it's a good lesson in impermanence. All right, so let's get started. So I wanted to mention something that is you could say it's sad news. A member of our community, and you may or may not know her, depending on how active you've been on the community and just which retreats you've gone to. But her name is Petra. She's a lovely woman, a very long time student of mine. Probably one of my earliest students, especially one of my earliest serious students. She has passed away today, and it wasn't a surprise or anything. We knew this was likely coming. She's been sick. She has been fighting with cancer for a while, and interestingly, it was her first bout with cancer that probably made her open to my teaching and brought her to this path. And that's very, very common. Very often when the ego thinks that it's going to get what it wants and that it's in control, it has no interest in real spiritual teaching. It might have a lot of interest in wearing spirituality, because in certain circles, spirituality has a certain kind of currency, right? Some people, oh, you practice meditation. Oh, you do yoga. Like, other egos are impressed by that, right? I remember taking a trip with my mother to Japan, and I made note of, this was in my 20s, and everyone we met, she would say that I practiced Zen meditation, and their eyes would bug out. And it was only after a while that I realized that she was doing that for that reaction. Because in Japan, practicing Zen is seen as like this crazy thing. You know, it's like being an astronaut or something, maybe for an American. Oh, you're an astronaut. Oh, that's crazy. Sorry, I'm getting a message here. So she was doing that to try and impress her friends. My son practices Zen meditation. Oh, wow. So this is, you know, wearing spirituality. This is using spirituality to impress other people. And egos love that. But they're not so interested in the real stuff, because real spirituality will actually dissolve the ego. It will weaken it and eventually dissolve it and uproot it eventually. And that's basically what we call death. It's basically death. So most of us not that interested in death, right? We're assuming that we sort of know it's going to come for us, but we pretend like it's not. We live like it's not. But if, like Petra, you maybe come into a situation where you find that death is starting to knock at your door, then maybe statements like all life is suffering, what the Buddha said, starts to ring a little more true. You know, well, I didn't plan for cancer, right? Again, as long as the ego's got its plan, then, but cancer's not in any ego plan, is it? Not usually, anyway. Who knows? Ego can be very creative. So there are probably egos out there who can use cancer to their purposes and their ends. Cancer could be a great victim story, right? So it was Petra's first experience with cancer that brought her, probably made her open in the teaching, brought her to our community. And she was a very serious student. She had great questions. She had a lot of questions early on, once I first taught her meditation. And you could tell they were very sort of intellectual questions. She was a very smart woman. She was a chemist, very bright. And you could tell she was really, you know, she had a strong mind that was inquiring about what is this all about. So early on there were a lot of questions, and then as the years went by, and this takes years for most people, it's not something that happens overnight. As the years went on, the questions got less, and our exchanges got much deeper. She would share stories with me about her experiences and her realizations, and they were very profound and very deep. And I was very, very impressed with where she had gone with her practice. And so earlier this year, I found out that, you know, her cancer, which had been in remission, had metastasized, and that basically meant that it was a matter of time. But even at that point, you don't know how long that matter of time is going to be. Is that going to be months? Is it going to be years? You know, no one really knows. And we had a conversation at that point, and I'm not going to reveal the contents of the whole conversation, but I again was very impressed with her understanding and her peace with her situation. Well, as it turns out, a few weeks ago, I found out that she was in the hospital. At first, we didn't know what it was, but then eventually it became clear it was the cancer. It had gotten into her brain and into her spine, and it was affecting her vision. She was getting headaches. It was really pretty nasty, and it was looking like there was just a short matter of time, weeks probably, which is what it basically ended up being, weeks. And she asked me to start calling her, several times a day, which I did for a while she could talk. And, she said that there was some fear there. And we worked together with the fear and the different things that she was afraid of in her situation, which is, completely understandable. And again, though, I was very impressed with her ability to see the truth, even in a situation like that one. And so I'd like to just take a moment here we'll have a moment of silence for Petra, out of respect, because she was a dear friend to many in the community, and she was again a wonderful person and a dear student of mine. So just out of respect for her, I'd like to take a moment of silence. And then tonight's talk is somewhat inspired by the situation. So let's just take a moment. All right, so I would like to tell you that if you have any stories that you'd like to share, if you knew Petra personally, if you have any stories that you'd like to share with the community, I will be putting together a sort of virtual memorial service for her. It's just going to be a video, basically. But if people have stories and they'd like to share them with the community, stories of interacting with her. You may not have even known her that well, but you might have had an exchange or something. Please let me know. Send that to me, okay? The other thing is, please send her family your thoughts and prayers. She is survived by her husband and her 2 children. They're teenagers, so they're not quite necessarily adults. They're a little older, but they aren't quite adults. All right. So the first thing I wanted to say is it's okay to be sad. So again, if you didn't know Petra very well, then you may not be sad. If you knew her well, you might have a lot of emotions surrounding this. And it's just a matter of time before we will lose something or someone that we care about. That's just part of the makeup of the way that the world is. So the first thing I want to say is it's okay to be sad. I think many people think that detachment, enlightenment means that somehow we aren't going to experience emotion, or we aren't going to be sad or anything like that. That's not my experience. And I don't know that that's even possible, or even if it is, I'm not sure that it's desirable. For me, that isn't what the yogis and Buddha was teaching us. That's not really what awakeness, to be awake means to be awake to our sadness, to be awake to what we are feeling. I'll share with you a story about sadness that happened to me, and some of you have probably heard this before. But it was a long time ago, and I remember I had an experience of just very deep sadness, and it was really weighing on me. And for whatever reason, I just had the thought to really just dive in, to really dive into the sadness, to experience it as fully and deeply as I could. And when I did that, I had the most amazing experience of right in the middle of that sadness, like right at the heart of it, was the most exquisite beauty. I mean, it was beyond words how beautiful the human heart is, that it can experience sadness. I mean, that quality of that emotion, it is just beyond words. But most of us treat sadness as though it's, something that is put upon us, some condition that we need to cure, like an illness that we need to get rid of. And at least at that point, when I was willing really to experience it fully, that wasn't my experience of it. It was like, what a gift to be able to be sad. And again, I don't think we think of it this way. We're always thinking in dualistic terms. I want to be happy, not sad. Sad is bad. I want to get rid of the sadness. I'll do whatever it takes to make it go away. Well, what if you felt nothing? Because if we're going to experience happiness, we have to be willing to experience sadness. Full stop. Full stop. Can you experience up without down? Is there such a thing as a night without a day? It's through the opposites that we can experience. Without the opposites, there's nothing. So thinking that we are somehow going to escape sadness and just experience the happiness, forget about it. Not possible. Now I'm contrasting those things, and I reserve the use of words like bliss for something else. Joy also, very often, I reserve. Now this is just semantics. This is just the way that I teach. Someone else might use different words in a different way. So don't get too hung up on the words. Try and see what I'm pointing to with the words. So happiness and sadness, these are opposites. It's like a roller coaster, life, happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad. That does not change with enlightenment. It does not change with awakening. Those experiences will continue to come and go. What does change is we can begin to access joy, peace, and bliss regardless. This continues. And the way in the yoga tradition or in the Buddhist tradition it was put sometimes, and I like this. This is a very good way of thinking of it, is imagine a wheel. All right, and this is how samsara is often described, as a wheel. So life is this wheel. And anytime you're at the top of the wheel, right, where are you going? Are you going to keep going up? Nope. Because it's a circle, you know you're coming back down again. And then when you're at the bottom, can you keep going lower? No. You're going to start going back up again. So this is where most people reside. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, up and down. Sound familiar? Well, it does to many people. Now, many people try and deny the down part, and they say, well, that was just bad luck, or, you know, I don't know why that happened to me, or they just block it out of their memory completely. And they keep trying to pretend like life is just up here all the time. And they try and deny this bottom part. But we all have it. It's always coming, right? We're either on our way up, yay, I'm winning, or we're on our way down. Oh my God, it's so horrible, pandemic, death, COVID. Oh, COVID's over, things are opening back up again, yay, party time. Oh my God, a new pandemic has come, oh, boo, boo, boo. Okay? So this is where most of us are. Up and down, winning, losing. And what yoga and Buddhism try and do, any spiritual tradition, Jesus, right? If you read the Christian teachings right, they also do the same thing. They take us from the circumference to the center. The center of the wheel is not going up and down, right? The spoke of the wheel. Everything else is going around it. But the spoke of the wheel is not moving. So, when we spiritually know our center, we can stop trying to stop the wheel from going, because the wheel is not going to stop. That wheel is called life. It does not stop. It just keeps going. As long as there is life, that is what's going to happen. Up and down, birth and death, on and on and on. Good luck stopping it. You can maybe stop your life, but you're not going to stop life. And good luck even stopping your life. At least according to these traditions, that's not going to work. You can kill yourself and you'll come right back again. Okay, that's why there isn't an easy escape. There isn't a lazy person's way out of samsara. We all will do this work one day. Everyone will do this work in one form or another one day, because that is the only way out of that cycle. Okay? So, when we do the work, we begin to move from out here where everything's spinning around all the time, and we begin our identity, our center moves to the middle. It's not saying that this stops. It's not saying that you're never going to get sick again. It's not saying you're not going to get fired. It's not saying you're not going to get a divorce, okay? This isn't about your conventional life and making that go the way you think it's supposed to go. That's what everyone wants, right? Many people come to spirituality because they think it's going to fix their life. Now, in a weird way, once you move from here to here, you might find that even though things are a mess out here, somehow it's all okay. And then magically, everything kind of works itself out. Now, that might mean you got fired, you got a divorce, and you had to move back in with your parents. All right? For a lot of people, that's like failure. You failed at life. You suck at life. But spiritually speaking, that might be the best thing that ever happened to you. All right? So I could go on and on about how many times when we think this is the end, and that's happened to me personally. So again, a lot of this comes from my own experience. This isn't theoretical for me. I have very little interest in quoting you from some scripture with some theoretical idea that doesn't apply to your life, doesn't apply to my life. that I can't live. There's a lot in there too, trust me. I could pull stuff out of the yoga tradition that you'd be like, what in the world is that? And some teachers spend a lot of time on that. And I'm not saying that's wrong or bad. I'm just not going to spend time on that. Okay? So it's okay to feel sad. And in my experience, being able to feel sad is a gift. Because the opposite of that is feeling nothing. And if you've ever been depressed before, you might think that depression is sadness. It's not really sadness. It's kind of like not feeling anything. It really is just like gray. So the things you usually like, you don't like those things anymore. And it's just sort of like you just don't care about anything. And I've been depressed before, so it's not pleasant. So I don't think sadness and depression they're not really the same thing. So many of us don't feel okay being sad. And I think that's because for many of us when we were young, the people around us freaked out when we were sad. Very often. They might get upset themselves if we were crying or we were sad. They might get angry. If someone upset us or something upset us, our parents might give us an ice cream. They might, hug us, comfort us, try and make us feel better. And basically we learn, very not intentionally, but we learn like it's not okay to be sad or it's bad to be sad. But it is okay. Okay, I'm here to tell you it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to really experience that. It's not something we need to fix. It's not something we need to run away from. What would happen if we were sad and we just let ourselves really feel sad? Now, I get it. Sometimes you don't have that luxury. But this is one of the reasons why we meditate. Okay, so that we know that we are going to have about 20 minutes without distraction every day where we are letting ourselves feel whatever it is that we need to feel. We're just experiencing it. And that's how I try and get you guys to meditate. If you're understanding my instructions, you're understanding that that's really what it's about. You're not trying to manipulate the sadness away. You're not trying to manipulate yourself into some blissful state. You're really allowing yourself to be open, fully open. That posture in that time becomes a space where you feel safe to open up and experience what you're experiencing. Now I want to be clear because I said earlier that the people around you when you're growing up, they freaked out when you got sad, and that teaches us. And no one did that out of malice. They didn't do it because they're evil. Your parents didn't ruin you or anything like that. They learned that from their parents, and their parents learned that from their parents. So human unconsciousness has just been passed down from generation to generation, generation. And I get it, and you should get it too. It's not easy to watch someone that we love experience sadness. It can be very heart-wrenching, and we can feel like we want to do anything to fix it for them and to make it better for them. But again, part of that is our assumption that there's something wrong, right? That they shouldn't feel sad, and that feeling sad is bad. So again, if I'm a parent or I'm a spouse, the person I love is crying, sobbing, I get uncomfortable. Oh God, stop. What can I do to make it stop? Maybe I give you a hug. Maybe I can buy you something, right? Let me fix it. Because now you're making me uncomfortable. And that's the other part of it. The people around us they did what they did because they loved us so much. And they didn't know how to handle their own discomfort. They didn't know how to be fully present with someone who is experiencing, maybe sadness or an uncomfortable emotion. That's why they felt like, well, I need to do something. I need to fix this. And that requires a high degree of awareness and presence. To be present with someone who's maybe having a meltdown, a breakdown, just really losing it. And to hold space for them. To be non-reactive in that environment. Super, super challenging. Okay, so if we think, our parents were supposed to be Buddhas or enlightened beings, forget about it. I suppose it happens, but very, very rare. Very, very rare. And it's not our parents' job to be enlightened beings, right? It's our job. So we're not going to put that on them. We're not going to blame them. That's not what this is about. I'm just trying to explain where a lot of these ideas might come from. Oh, it's not okay to be sad. I'm sad. What's wrong with me? What should I do? It's fine. And the other thing I'll say is you are strong enough to handle any emotion. Maybe your ego isn't, and that's who's afraid of feeling it. Because your ego may very well get the real sense that if you experience too much sensation, emotion, you will lose your separate sense of self in that. And that's a real thing that can happen. So this is why we often, right, just get the sensations too much of, emotion, cut it off, shut it down. I can't take any more. And sometimes you may need to do that. If you have to work or you've got something you're dealing with, you may have to do something to cope with the emotions in the short term. But again, this is why we meditate daily, and sometimes that's not enough. And this is also why we might go on retreat. Before this whole thing happened, I tried to make it so that there's an opportunity to go on retreat about 4 times a year. Because what I found is with many students, they could go for, 3-4 months and, they're doing fairly well. But at a certain point, things kind of build up. All right, these emotions, these things. So retreat could really be like a clearing. It's like a weekend where you really are just there for yourself and you're really getting to be with yourself and your emotions and experience those things. Really kind of allow yourself to feel them fully and completely. So because our parents and the other people around us weren't okay with their own discomfort, right? Watching us be sad made them uncomfortable. They, try to get us to change, right? Stop crying. Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. Whatever it is, whatever strategy they used. Some parents would get angry, right? Oh, stop being a wimp. Grow up. Be a man, right? All these kinds of things. I heard that when I was growing up, oh, you're a big boy now. You're not supposed to cry. All these things, right? It's inconvenient. Little child crying, whatever. It's annoying. So we try and fix it. So we learn very quickly, like it's not okay. It's not okay for me to be crying. It's not okay for me to have these feelings. I need to shut this down as quickly as possible. Well, it's very unfortunate that we do that to one another as human beings, that we aren't more compassionate and understanding, that we can't be present with our own discomfort if someone is in front of us and crying or wailing, or that we can't hold space for them. Maybe one day we'll get there. And that's a lot of the work that we're trying to do, so that we can be present with someone who is maybe not sure how to handle their own emotions, and that makes them very uncomfortable. But not to let that make us uncomfortable with what we're feeling, because we might feel uncomfortable too. But it sounds ironic, because we might feel uncomfortable, but are we comfortable being with that discomfort? I want you to really think about that, because that's a key point. Confusing, yes, I get it. Are you comfortable being uncomfortable? Because again, it doesn't go away. This is what people think. They look at a Zen master, they look at someone who is very present and very seems unflappable, and they think, well, they just don't feel anything. Look at them. It's fine. Never upset. They don't feel anything. Is that the case, or have they learned to be present and fully feel and process the emotions that they experience in real time? My experience is the latter. It's really allowing us ourselves to feel and experience. It changes everything. So if someone's there, they're crying, you're uncomfortable, are you able to be non-reactive? Are you able to be comfortable with that discomfort? That is very, very important. So in order to be really fully awake, we must be willing and able to fully feel and experience whatever it is that we're feeling and experiencing, fully and in real time. Now again, this isn't overnight. So again, this is why we meditate on a regular basis. This is why we do so much of the work that we do. Okay? So one misunderstanding about the word detachment is that we repress what we feel. So again, this goes back to sadness. Oh, I'm a yogi now, so I'm not supposed to be sad, or I'm not supposed to this, I'm not supposed to that, right? See, it's your own mind. I'm not interested in theoreticals. I'm not interested in criticizing anybody. That's not the point of this. So this isn't about criticizing you if you do that. This is about pointing something out so you can become aware of it in your own mind. Okay? Do you think there's like a yogi way to be? Oh, yogis don't get upset. Yogis don't do this. Yogis don't do that. And so, if we have that idea, and be honest with yourself. I'm never going to know. There's not a quiz after this. Do you have an idea? Yogis are whatever it is. They're not supposed to eat meat. They're not supposed to have sex. They're supposed to dress like this. They're not supposed to curse. I don't know what crazy ideas people have. What a spiritual person or spiritual teacher is supposed to be like. So we start doing yoga. Well, now I'm supposed to conform to this idea that I have in my head of what that, a yogi looks like. And so we start to deny how we really feel, right? Because yogi's not supposed to feel this way. They're not supposed to do this or that. And what we're doing is creating unconsciousness. That's how you create unconsciousness, is you deny what you're experiencing, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. It's the complete opposite. Now, I'm not saying you can go and indulge every urge and every fantasy that you have or whatever. Okay, that many people think, well, if I'm not repressing something, well, then I'm expressing it. Well, that's also not right. Okay? What we want is to be aware. Aware. It's not expression versus repression, which again is on this dualistic yin-yang, do I express it? Do I tell them what I feel? Do I do what I want to do? Or do I repress it? I don't know. It depends on the situation, what the right action is or inaction is. What's important for us is that we are aware of it. That we're not lying to ourselves. Most important thing you can do is just not lie to yourself. To be really honest with yourself. And it's harder than it sounds. Okay, so detachment doesn't mean wanting to eat meat and then pretending that you don't want it anymore, or wanting to say something nasty to somebody but saying namaste instead. Okay, that's not detachment. Detachment's also not, it's not a lot of things that people think that it is. What it means, in one sense, is not being attached to how you feel. How we feel is constantly changing. And you can try to manage it. And good luck. There are probably some strategies that work fairly well. We can do that in many, many ways, right? With food, with drugs, with social interactions, with all kinds of things. I want to feel better. Don't we all want to feel better? Don't we all want to feel good? Isn't it just basic? We all just want to feel good. And when we're not feeling good, we want to find a way to feel good. Well, again, you can devise strategies for this. Some of them work, some of them don't. But detachment means allowing ourselves to step back from just the constant flow of experience, of emotions, of sensations, of sadness, of joy, of all these things, because they are coming, whether we like it or not, and whether our strategies are working or not. The different experiences that life has to bring us, these gifts, and they really are gifts, even the hardship. It's very hard to get people to understand that even the stuff that you would rather avoid is done for you. It is for your ultimate good. And not just the little you, the big you. The you that is connected with all of existence. So if the little you has to experience some hardship, you can rest assured that it is in the best interest of both the little you, okay, maybe not as your ego defines it, but ultimately the little you and the big you, because they're really the same thing, ultimately. Sometimes we talk about them as though they're separate, but ultimately there isn't really a separation there. So allowing feelings, experiences, emotions to come and go freely, detachment. All right? It doesn't mean avoiding certain things. It doesn't mean, any of these things. Allowing things to flow. When we shut down the flow, that's really when we begin to suffer. And even if I try and chase after flow, I will shut down the flow. And that's the irony of it, right? Is I want joy and I want flow. So I chase after flow, I chase after joy, and then they start slipping out of my hands. It gets harder and harder to have them. Why? Because now I'm chasing after them. And it's just not the way that life works. Where ironically, if I can relax, again, if I can be comfortable with my own discomfort, all of a sudden, wow, that can become flow. Everything can become flow. My whole life is nothing but flow, bliss, joy, not happiness. Because sadness, you can feel bliss and joy and peace in the presence of sadness. I will repeat that. You can experience joy, bliss, peace in the presence of sadness. So if we think sadness is the opposite of joy or bliss or peace, we don't really understand what those things are really about. We're still thinking of happiness. Okay? Happiness is the opposite of sadness. Not what I'm talking about. Those are not the opposite of anything. Those are just present, always. And we can deny them, we can ignore them, but they don't have an opposite. They're not going anywhere. Okay? There's no opposite to it. All right. So, you may not like hearing that. I get it, and you may not believe it. So the question I would ask to someone who's in that situation is, so how is it working out for you? How is trying to deny sadness or deny death, how's that working out for you? Has anyone successfully done that? Has anyone lived a human life without suffering? Now, from the outside, it might look like it. It might look like your friend is, they had perfect parents and but we don't really know. And I would wager if we are honest with ourselves and we're honest with one another, we're going to find there's human suffering in every life. It doesn't matter how blessed that life was. So how's it working out, trying to manage and control how we feel? So again, a lot of times it's like an addict, like an alcoholic. It really is when we realize, this strategy doesn't work. And some of you haven't realized that yet. And that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. You just have to play that out until one day it clicks. And it's not about being smart up here, because you might understand intellectually, but then you're still drawn to strategizing. Okay, I'm going to make it work out. Here's how I'm going to make it work out. I'm going to get on the bliss train. I'm going to get on the flow train. It's going to be great. So one day we realize it's not working out. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried. And it works out some of the time and it doesn't work out some of the time. I don't really have control of this. I keep thinking if I could just get this one little piece, then, I'll just be bliss, bliss, bliss all the time. But again, you're not talking about bliss. You're talking about happiness. The way I'm defining it. Okay? So there are many ways we try and control how we feel. Right? Drugs, alcohol, gossip, excessive talking, food, yoga, and spirituality. That's a big one for people in our community. And I really want you to realize that. Again, one of these days I'm going to give a talk about asana, what I call asana addiction. And it's not just asana. It could be meditation. It could be pranayams. It could be any of the techniques that we learn, where we are no longer using those tools to wake up, but actually to go back asleep. To deny how we're feeling, to avoid how we're feeling, not to more fully embody what we're experiencing. Okay, that's not why I teach you these tools. It's not so you can try and escape how you're feeling. It's really so we can better handle what we're feeling. Okay, if the tools are used properly, and there's no guarantee that they're going to be. So don't think just because it says yoga that means automatically, you're using the tools to help you awaken. These tools can be used to put us to sleep just as easily as to wake us up. Okay? So please keep that in mind. As I said earlier, there may be times when we do need to manage our emotions, when we do need to, we're at work, we've got a situation where, we can't work if we have water, streaming down our face 24/7, right? We may have to say, okay, I need to, or we've got little children and, we need to take care of them. So again, this is why we meditate. This is why we go on retreat. So we have more time to deal with and really be with what we're feeling. Okay? So I'm going to tell you a little secret, and this relates to some of the things I said before. Many of us think that we can wall ourselves off from what we might call negative emotion. And you can't do that. It just doesn't work that way. So, if you don't want to feel sadness, if you don't want to feel uncomfortable, if you don't want to feel whatever it is, you're not going to experience joy, and happiness to the same extent that you could. So when you wall yourself off, let me see if you can relate to this. This has definitely been my experience. I think it's been the experience for many people. Do you remember when you were a child? It felt like your emotions were like this. Your emotional range was huge. You could go from just devastating lows to the highest highs, right? And you were innocent. It means you didn't have tools for controlling and managing your emotions. You just felt them, and they were so raw and they were so intense. And again, we learned from those around us which emotions were okay, which ones weren't, all of these things. And over time, we began to do this. Now, usually, we weren't, let's say these are the highs, we weren't trying to lose those. We liked those. We'd like those to go like this direction. But what we didn't realize is that we said, well, I can't let myself be sad. I shouldn't feel this way. We thought we could keep this, but we couldn't. And so it's like this. And it's, some of us are like that. And we might wonder, what happened to those highs? What happened to that elation that we used to feel? I mean, I remember getting up as a child, there's nothing special about that day, and I just felt like $1 million just to get up and breathe and move and run and experience life. I didn't need anything. Life itself was enough, and it still is. It still is. But we've forgotten that, and this is part of the reason for that. We just sort of cut those ends off, and so now we're in this limited range, and we're just, again, trying to control, we're trying to protect. We're trying to control what we feel, we're trying to protect ourselves from feeling certain things. And this is not awakeness. This is not about what we need to wake up. Waking up is not about, again, always feeling good. Unless you understand that really always feeling good means being able to feel good while you feel bad. Again, sounds like a contradiction, sounds like a paradox, and it is. How can I feel good when I'm feeling bad? Well, that's what I want you to learn to do. I want you to learn to fully feel bad and at the same time realize that you're fine. And realize that actually being able to feel bad is actually a gift. It's a gift that comes with something called life, which is a real gift that we've all been given for the time being. But most of us want to pick and choose and say, no, well, the life thing sounds good, but I don't want this other bit. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way for anybody. Okay, again, we might think we're the exception. Well, why do I have to, everyone has their challenges. I've been fond recently of thinking that there's no easy human life. This is why Buddha said all life is suffering, man. You can look at a sports star and think they have it easy. If you were in their shoes, you would think you had the biggest burden. Just like you think you have the biggest burden, right? We all think we have it. No, but no one understands. No, but my problems are... No, they're not. It's just called human life. It's called human suffering. We all have it. Okay? It's not, yours is not special. So there really is no easy human life. The billionaire doesn't have the easy life. The millionaire, the hermit living in the ashram, whoever you think has got it made. There isn't an easy human life until we learn to fully live human life. And then it becomes a joy. All of it. All of it. Without exception. It includes death. It includes sadness. It includes all of it. So yoga, if we're really on the path, then it is teaching us resilience. And this is something that I find is often missed. There's a lot of talk about, yoga for stress relief these days and things like that. And yes, that's valuable. But what about resiliency? What about not getting stressed out? Okay, this is a whole nother level at which our practice engages us. So yes, at first it's very important to know what relaxation feels like, to know what oneness feels like, to know what wholeness feels like, to know what stillness feels like. It's very important. That is an important stage. But what I see is people get stuck there. And then the minute they get stressed out by life, they go running back to their yoga class, their yoga teacher, or they go to their retreat and they want to, let me relax again. And they get relaxed again, temporarily. And they go right back into life, and life is stressful and difficult. And they get stressed out again, and they come back for another hit, right? It's again the drug analogy. It works really well. So now instead of having a drug dealer, we've got a yoga teacher, yoga dealer. And we're running to our yoga dealer for another hit, right? Because we're too stressed out to deal with life. So this is why I really, my calling card, for better or worse, is yin yoga. Like that's what people, think of when they think of me. But I've had so many studios that just want me to teach yin, even 2 yin classes back to back. And I always say no, because it's important that I teach my students resiliency. And it can be difficult to do that with just yin yoga. We have to learn how to be strong, how to experience a lot of sensation and to hold our ground. Okay, so this is the yin and yang of yoga practice. It's good to relax, it's good to be calm, it's good to be still. But life, we can't always be calm, still, and relaxed in life. Okay? We need to engage with life. So the Bhagavad Gita was really, teaching us that. After the Buddha's rise and prominence in that culture, where many people misunderstood what Buddha was teaching, and they thought, same way that many in Europe misunderstood Jesus' message. And they thought, we have to be like Jesus, so we're going to be poor, we can't borrow money, we can't work, all this stuff. And we went into the Dark Ages in Europe. Okay, well, a similar thing was happening in India with misunderstanding of Buddha's teaching. So we're talking about misunderstanding Christ's message and misunderstanding Buddha's message. So Krishna came along with the Gita and said, hey, no, engage with life. Don't try and run away from it. That's not going to work. All right? There's a lot in there. That's not the only message in there, but that's one of the main messages in the Gita. So there's a part of us that's always whole, complete, and present. And that is why there is no death. Do you know of anything in existence that can simply disappear? It can go from something to nothing. So the law of conservation of energy tells us that it's not really possible from a scientific perspective. So if we've been on this path, we understand that nothing can disappear, but things transform, they change. And transformation is a constant. Sometimes the change is small, sometimes it's large. Sometimes we like the way things change, sometimes we don't like the way they change. But they're going to change. Have you noticed that reality just doesn't ask for our permission? Right? You could be having a great time. Maybe in high school you had a relationship. It was great. You're loving it. You're in love. And the other person says, it's not you, it's me. I'm sorry. It's not you, it's me. Don't you need to ask my permission first? I'm in love. You can't do that. Will you ask permission the last time you got sick? Is it convenient now for me to, for you to be sick right now? Is that okay? Reality doesn't care. Experiences come and they go. We may like them, we may not like them. Doesn't matter. This is why Buddha taught us impermanence. He saw reality in how things really are. Trying to make something that is constantly changing permanent is a formula for guaranteed suffering. Everything that you can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell is changing. And it will continue to change. And that includes the people that you love. And so if you hang on, then you will suffer. It's as simple as that. So part of our nature is constantly changing. And then another part is permanent. We have both in our nature. The problem for most of us is we are unaware of the permanent part, what we call our true nature. We don't know that part. We only know this changing stuff. Because we don't know the permanent part, we try and make the changing part permanent. And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. We try and put a lot of money in the bank, right? That way I'll always have enough money to maintain my lifestyle. Whatever way we try, right? I'm going to marry you, so the happiness that I feel now will always be there because now you're stuck with me. We do it in so many ways where we try and freeze a moment of happiness, and it just does not work. It doesn't work. As a result, we live in constant anxiety and fear because we're trying to do the impossible. We're trying to keep that which in its nature is change from changing. And you will fail only every single time. Again, you may for a moment think you're winning. You may for a moment think you've got it figured out. It won't last, I promise you. And even if it lasts your lifetime, how does this life end? We know how it ends for all of us, don't we? We die. Okay, and again, oh, it's so depressing. I hate Doug's talks. They're so... Is that true? Is that a true statement or not? So it's not meant to be depressing. It's truth. All right? We're all going to die. So what kind of happy ending is that? Who wins the game of life when the game of life ends with death? Now, I don't think death is actually a bad thing, but the ego is terrified of it. All right, so as long as we're identified with that ego, we're going to think, oh my God, death, horrible. So how is the ego going to win this game? It can't. It cannot win. So anytime we're trying to deny truth, we suffer. When we don't know ourselves, our depths, we're going to suffer. When we try and not feel what we are feeling or experiencing, we're going to suffer. When we think we know, we're going to suffer. All right? And what this is really about is, again, we can't... One of my teachers said to me very early on, and I'm so glad, so grateful for this teacher and what he taught me in a relatively short amount of time. He said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Pain is inevitable. It's part of the package of a human body and a human life. Now, it's relative, I get it. Some people have more pain in their life, some have less. But that's true of everything in our life, isn't it? It's true of everything. Some people are pretty, some aren't. Some people have gifts, other people don't. Some people are tall, other people are short. If anyone ever told you that we start this life with equal footing, they lied to you. Okay, there's nothing equal about it. And I guess it's not supposed to be equal, is it? Because it's just not how life is. So we as human beings, we love to argue with the way things are, how it should be. Well, who died and put us in charge? When did we figure out the meaning of life in the universe? As far as I know, we haven't. Okay, none of us can agree on it. So everyone's supposed to start life on an equal footing. Forget about it. They don't. Okay? So as far as I'm concerned, something much wiser, and I'm not talking about intellectually. Wisdom to me isn't necessarily of the intellect. It's not about knowing a lot. But a force much wiser than us made things the way that they are. And so some of us have a lot of pain. Some of us have less, but all of us have it. But like my teacher said, and this has been true for me, so it's not me believing what he said. And I don't want you to believe what I say. That's not how this works. He said it, and then I applied it in my life. And I said, is this true? Is he right? And in my experience, every time he's been right. Pain will come. Sometimes I'm in pain. But I don't have to suffer. Now, I might forget that, and then I start suffering. But if I can wake up, in any moment I can wake up. If I can wake up and say, you know what, I don't have to suffer, then the pain can still be there. And I can experience the joy of being alive, which includes pain. The joy of being alive is not separate from pain. It's also not separate from death. Okay? All right, everyone. So it's been a long talk this evening. I had a lot I wanted to say. I hope some of this was helpful for you. Again, I appreciate any support that you can lend to help me continue making videos and teaching online. Let me know if there is some way that I can help support you at this time as a teacher. Many people in the community have reached out to me, some for one-on-one sessions, some for other things. And, so far I've been able to do that. So to help them. There may come a day and a time when I'm not available and I can't. Who knows? I might get sick tomorrow, might be gone. So my feeling with my teachers is I don't ever assume they're going to be there in the future. I soak up as much as I can when I can. I'm one of those. So if I had a teacher, none of my teachers made this offer, FYI. Okay? So if I had a teacher who is like, hey, yeah, reach out, like let me know I can help you, I would be there. Trust me, I'm an annoying student. I'm going to soak up as much as I can from that person. All right? So it's up to you. Anyway, thank you for listening. It was a long talk today. I hope you got something from that. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to publish the schedule. I may redo the schedule a little bit, so keep an eye out. But I'll try and publish the schedule tonight or tomorrow morning or sometime tomorrow about what we're going to do. So we'll have class something tomorrow night. It might be Yang Yoga, but I might redo the schedule a little bit. I feel like, I don't know, there might be something. I might want to do Yang Yoga like during the day instead. So we'll see. All right, everyone. Namaste. Thank you.